1. This story took place in Thermopolis, Wyoming. At the beginning of June 2023, my girlfriend and I were staying there on a week-long vacation. One night after dinner, we went on a walk by the river in Hot Springs State Park. Across the river and up the bank, a road goes past T Hill. It is named for the letter T, made of a white rock, on its side to represent Thermopolis. The year previous, I hiked up this hill. A small portion of the trail is visible from the road, and you can see bits and pieces of it continuing upward if you look close. I'm very familiar with it, as it took me an hour or so to reach the top. And I have visited Thermopolis and the park many times. Back to the night we decided to walk. The sun had just set, some rain was falling, and a storm had passed through an hour or so beforehand. As we admired the river, I noticed a bright white blue light on T Hill. This light was on the established trail moving up. I pointed this light out to my girlfriend. I said it was not a flashlight, as the light was not a beam, more like a ball. We both wondered if someone were going on a night hike, like a steep, demanding trail, in the rain, but decided this probably wasn't the case. And the light was moving at a much faster pace than a person walking. She suggested a person biking up the hill. That was the only logical explanation, as far as I could tell. So we stood there and waited to see this person either go around the switchback to continue up the hill or turn back to come down. Neither of those things happened. The light disappeared. We had the perfect view of the side of the hill, and I know exactly where the first switchback is that should have taken a person the other direction up the hill. It did not move up or down the hill. It was just gone. We continued to walk and watch. It did not reappear. We went back to our truck and parked it in a lot with a higher vantage point to look for it. The strange light did not reappear, and we waited for 20 or so minutes. After a short drive back to my mom's house where we were staying, we told her about what we had seen. She did not seem surprised, and told me that the locals and tourists both report strange lights in the hills and mountains, visible outside town and within the park. She also told me that someone had died on that trail years ago. Wyoming at night has an unsettling vibe I can feel in the pit of my stomach every time I'm out there. It is mostly still a very wild place. The state has the smallest population of the contiguous U.S. I believe lots of paranormal things do occur out there. The area and surrounding states are notorious for this weird activity. I don't have a solid idea of what I saw that night. Maybe a ghost or some kind of extraterrestrial. Or there's a normal explanation. Ball lightning, or some other obscure scientific phenomenon. But no matter what it was, Wyoming has a place in my heart as a beautiful, somewhat spooky state that I will keep exploring. 2. I work as an inspection clerk for a real estate agency in a medium-sized town, a mining town. Needless to say, I see a lot of houses. It is worth noting that a lot of houses are creepy as hell. With big inspections, I could be in the house till it's getting dark out. In my job, I take pictures of a range of categories in an area, for example, walls, ceiling, windows, floor, cupboards, you get the picture. Noises, ticks, and tacks are a common occurrence. I attribute them to the house settling or the roof getting hot and cold, etc. One day, one of the agents comes to me and asks me to go do an inspection on a house she was too freaked out to do herself. This house had my hair on edge the moment I got in the front door. I would describe my feeling as an urge to get out or that I'm in danger. From the start, my senses are up in arms. They normally are, as I am always aware that someone could come in behind me. I always lock the gates and main doors behind me because of this. Putting my feelings aside, I start my work. Doing the entrance, the dining room, and get to the living room, there is a door to the front yard in the living room, and I note the windows, door, and curtain fixtures are of an old style. So I note the house must be pretty old. I start by hearing someone's feet shuffling from the hallway behind me, like the morning in slippers going to make coffee with a yawn type of shuffle. I pause for a bit and listen, but it doesn't happen again, so I go back to work. Down the hallway, there is a mirror at the end with 2 rooms on my right and 2 bathrooms to my left. I go into the first room on the right. I notice a strong odor and think it must be the carpet. Turns out it was rotten. A lot of stains on the carpet, and as I'm typing this out, I hear a voice. I thought it was the agent checking up on me, so I walk to the front door and see nothing. So, I go back to work, feeling a little more on edge. I go back to work, marking down the stains on the carpet, and this time hear a distinctive "no." I stop dead in my tracks and start looking around the room, really freaked out. I finish the room and head to the main bedroom. I finish up the room without much happening. I'm walking out of the room into the hall, typing notes in my phone. Out of the corner of my eye, I see something that looks like a person in the mirror, directly on my right, standing at the end of the hall. I turn to the mirror and it's gone. I look down the hall and there's nothing. I let out quite a big gasp as this happened and chuckled to myself. Heading into the room in front of me that leads to an entertainment area, I hear the shuffling again from the hall. Now I'm really standing there listening. The first bedroom door slams shut. Panicking, I'm going through the whole house, trying to find someone messing with me. Nothing comes up. I hear a female voice loudly saying, "Move!" This time I heard it. I really just freaking heard that. I start to head to the front door because at this stage my nerves have had it. As I get to the front door, the first room's door, that I have opened again, slams shut. So now I'm noping it out of the house. I stand outside, collecting my nerves to go back in. I say a prayer for myself and go back into the entertainment area. Nothing much happens after that. Just some shuffling in the hall as before, but eventually I'm too far to hear it. I finish the inspection and start heading out. Unlocking the front door, I hear, "Now!" in the same voice. By this point, I'm freaking done with this and just say back, Yeah, I'm leaving," and hightail it out of there as fast as I could. Later, I learned the man staying there had lost his job and wife in the same month. His mother was sickly and in bed most of the time in that first room, hence the smell and the stains. I'm unsure if she passed away in the house. All I know is he went missing for 4 months, not paying rent, and was evicted. The maintenance guy comes to me after work is done and said, "Dude, that house is freaky," telling me his guys were telling grim stories about stuff happening, like light switches turning on by themselves, and moans and noises. The house is now being rented by the mines for their workers. I haven't heard from them yet. 3. I can't sleep at all since this happened, and I'm honestly not sure who else to share this with because I think I'll sound crazy. But I have to get this out there because it's been running through my head, and I'm so chilled and mortified. I live on this big piece of sort of small farmland, with 2 homes, the house my husband and I live in and the house that is owned by his grandparents, a short walking distance away. We have a lot of woods surrounding our land, and we get a lot of woodland animals that come through our yard a lot. It's one thing I really love about living here. There's a groundhog family I've got to watch grow up that live by one of our sheds, that mind their own business and don't bother any of the small crops my husband's nana grows. Anyway, our dogs kind of just know the territory, and walk around freely between our 2 homes in the large field. I guess you could call them farm dogs, but they don't really do anything. My dog is a 3-legged, 15-year-old Chihuahua that manages to get around better than me somehow, and Nana's really fat beagle would lick you to death. We're also dog-sitting my mother-in-law's dog for the 4th week of July, since she's going to be somewhere with lots of fireworks. He really doesn't like them, and he's familiar with our home. So last night I come out of the bedroom and the big dog starts freaking out, like whining, howling, kind of stomping his feet like he wants to show me something, if that makes sense. This isn't really unusual for him, because he gets pretty mouthy when he wants outside. So I started going towards the door, which he then started gesturing with his head towards. So I opened the wooden door before our screen door, and he just froze in our kitchen like a statue. My dog then came up behind him and froze too. They both stared directly at me and turned their heads toward the door in sync, like they were gesturing for me to go outside. It was so uniform. I don't know how to describe it. Like it just felt so wrong for them to do, but at the same time, I assumed maybe there was a skunk outside or something. I went out onto the porch to see our grand neighbor's dog, sitting happily on our porch, which made me relax a little. There were very distant sounds of fireworks, so I thought maybe that's what our dogs were on edge about. Then the fat beagle on the porch did the same thing, looked at me, nodded his head toward the woods like a suggestion. I noticed he was sitting uncharacteristically still and wasn't panting and snorting like he usually does. I walked to the edge of the porch and looked around a little bit. Eventually my eyes landed at this one spot, a perfect hole between the trees, that allowed me to stare back deeper into the woods a little bit. And in that spot I saw a pair of eyes open and blink at me. The rest is kind of a haze. I just remember thinking you need to go to the woods over and over again, while urging myself not to do it, like I was having a battle with a rope pulling me. It suddenly looked like there was grass that was laid perfectly for me to walk on, like I could point out spots that had been tread on by feet before. The best way I can describe it is like that one Junji Ito story about the fault where people are being lured into their holes. It was like there was a path made for me to walk to this pair of white eyes staring at me from the woods. My husband noticed something was amiss, I guess because he heard the door open and wasn't sure where I was. I always tell him when I go outside to read or sit on the porch for a while. And I just kind of heard him behind me go, "What are you doing?" I remember saying, "I'm just looking." I specifically remember saying that. I would bet money on it that those words left my mouth. My husband kind of started getting worried and started guiding me inside, but I remember saying, "I'm just looking." He finally ushered me inside and shut the door, turned around wide-eyed and kind of questioned, "You do not need to go out into the woods?" I was really confused. From what I remembered from his perspective, what he should have seen was me standing on the porch, staring into the woods. I never mentioned anything about walking out there, just had the sensation that I should move. It was then he told me that apparently I kept looking out like I was in a trance and saying different variations of "I need to walk out into the woods for a little bit." I have no recollection of this at all. I've had weird things happen to me before, but this truly fills me with dread. I don't understand what happened, and I'm honestly really frightened about any of us going outside alone for a bit. I really, really feel like there's something trying to lure us into the woods or something. 4. Yesterday, my husband and I embarked on a spontaneous adventure, driving up to Ukiah, California, and beyond to indulge in some hiking and sightseeing. With a free Saturday on our hands, we decided to bring along our trusty four-legged companion and explore the beautiful outdoors. Little did we know that our journey would take an unexpected turn during the drive home, between Navarro River Redwood State Park and Paul Dimmick campgrounds. Reflecting on the day, there was one peculiar incident that stood out to me. It happened at a random rest stop we stumbled upon on our way up. As nature called, I made a quick pit stop in the restroom, while my husband and our dog took a short walk. When I returned to the car, my husband had wandered off, engrossed in capturing moments through the lens of his camera. It was unusual since he typically keeps me in the loop about such things. Nonetheless, I brushed it off, assuming it was just a new quirk he had developed. Up until that point, everything had been enjoyable. We had driven through a mesmerizing tunnel of redwood trees, met fascinating people along the way, and even caught a glimpse of the magnificent coastline by taking Highway 1. My husband even alerted me whenever he'd wandered off to take pictures. Once we were ready to drive home, we stopped and grabbed some food, got some Starbucks, and continued the journey home. However, it was the stretch of road between Navarro River Redwood State Park and Paul Dimmick campgrounds that gave rise to an unnerving experience. My husband had been excitedly talking about this particular area all week, but I had an unsettling feeling as darkness started to descend. My stomach felt bloated and my heart raced with unease. I voiced my concerns, pleading with him not to stop for pictures, and he agreed because he felt strange too. Nevertheless, when we reached the bend that led us beneath the canopy of towering trees, the car came to a halt. To my surprise, my husband unbuckled his seatbelt and opened the door. Bewildered, I asked him what he was doing, to which he simply replied, "I don't know." He proceeded to lower the windows, clutching his phone instead of shutting the car door. Our usually excitable dog, sensing something unusual, moved from his usual spot in my husband's lap to mine. He sat quietly, his gaze fixed straight ahead, displaying a rare calmness instead of his usual eagerness to explore. The air grew still, and the sky seemed strangely brighter than before. It was 7:28 p.m. when we entered the canopy. Despite our earlier agreement, my husband couldn't resist capturing the mysterious atmosphere, opting to take pictures from inside the car. As I looked around, I noticed the crisp, fresh scent in the air, reminiscent of an air-conditioned, sterile office building. I whistled a short tune, but the sound didn't echo. It was eerily quiet. I also couldn't help but notice the absence of fallen trees or debris on the forest floor. No other vehicles or people were present, save for us. Even the call boxes were nowhere to be seen. After exchanging a few words, a black car passed by, followed by a silver one, seemingly breaking the spell. My husband snapped out of whatever trance had befallen him, swiftly closing the windows, starting the car and driving away. Strangely, it was 8:03 p.m. when we finally left that place, even though it felt like our conversation lasted no more than 5 minutes. Oh, and remember the tune I whistled? A random bird whistled it back as we were pulling out. Our dog remained still in my lap until we passed Paul Dimmick campgrounds, when we finally had a chance to discuss what had happened. My husband confessed that he couldn't remember anything from the moment we entered that mysterious stretch of road until we left it. As I sit here now, trying to make sense of this bewildering experience, I can't help but question my own sanity. The events that transpired are beyond my comprehension, and I find myself searching for an explanation that eludes me. Has anyone else encountered something similar in the area, or had a similarly bizarre experience during a road trip? I would greatly appreciate any insights or reassurance that I'm not alone in this inexplicable occurrence. 5. Greetings, everyone. I want to share with you an encounter I had in September 2012 in a French woods in the neighborhood of Beaugé-en-Anjou. I'm not sure of the name of the forest. It could be Les Bois d'Anjou or La Forêt d'Amanel des Chandelets. Anyway, I'm still haunted by this creepy encounter. I just can't accept being unable to know what that scary creature was. So, I was 20 and in an old small truck with an older friend, 55 years old, who was the driver. I was sitting on the passenger place and the right of the truck. The truck was very old, and I can remember we couldn't go faster than 30 or 40 km/h. We were driving in the Havre in Normandy, and we only took the very small road in order to stop anywhere we wanted, to visit an old church or an abandoned house, German fortification, etc. We were expecting to arrive at our destination, a troglodyte house that belonged to friends of mine, around 3 a.m. But we were late, and it was 3 a.m. when we entered a huge dark forest in the night. We were driving slowly in the woods on a straight small road. The old lights of the truck were some kind of blinking yellow. At a point, I saw a very black humanoid outline on the left side of the road. It was a very clear outline because it was in the light of our truck. Otherwise, I wouldn't even have seen it. The creature was on 2 legs, as a biped, no tail. At first, I couldn't see any arms. As we were slowly approaching the creature, I saw it turning its head in our direction. We were silent in the truck, saying no words. My friend was just driving, and I was wondering if I was hallucinating. We slowly drive in its direction, and it started to cross the road as it was staring at us. It has big yellow eyes like an owl. It was around 1.5 meters high. We were almost at its level, and I remember fearing it would open the truck door and grab me. I was really in fear. I saw its arms swinging along its black, thin, hairy body. It has hair all on its body. I saw it at its outline as we approached it. It arrived on the other side of the road and suddenly stopped and turned in our direction, still staring at me or us. A few seconds later, we passed it, and I didn't move my head, just looking at the right rearview mirror, seeing that it was staring at our truck, letting us drive away from him. My friend and I didn't say a word. And half an hour later, we drive out of the dark woods, and I said something like, "Well, weird things in the woods, right?" And my friend was suddenly extremely nervous, saying, "Yeah, did you see that? What the fuck was that?" We talked about it, and he saw the same thing as me. He thought he was hallucinating because we were very tired, but no, we saw that thing in the woods. Today he's in his 60s and I'm in my 30s, and we're both still haunted by this thing. We talk about it every time we meet each other. He is particularly marked by the intelligence in his big yellow eyes. I know this could be explained, but to be honest, I'm an urbexer, have been since 2004. I visit the catacombs of Paris every 2 months. I saw weird stuff during my explorations, but I never feared anything. But this thing, it scares me. Really. Anyway, one day I found a picture on the internet. Sadly, I didn't find the artist, and there was no context, but it looks a lot like what we saw, except for the eyes. The creature I saw had very big, round, yellow eyes. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Paranormal Stories, episode 336. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do press the like button if you enjoyed the video. If you'd like to get these and all my videos a little bit early, you can support me on a monthly basis for as little or as much as you like through Patreon. You can also buy Hellfreezer merchandise and make donations during videos like this one, and streams if you wish to do so. This is not and will never be required to watch my videos, but it is very much appreciated and helps fund my sushi addiction. Right, I don't think there's any other business today. Let me check. This will be Friday, so that will be... No, it doesn't. Okay, that's fine. So let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is there a foodstuff that you were put off eating when you were young that you know is probably good, you've just never tried it again? Specifically for me, I'm talking about salmon. I had it when I was young. It was full of bones. It just put me off and I never wanted to eat salmon again. Until it occurred to me one day that I do quite enjoy sushi, as I just mentioned, and there's salmon in that, and that's very nice. There's no bones. It's well prepared, even for the cheapo supermarket stuff I buy. So I should probably and could probably try proper sushi, cooked properly, again, just with all, with most of the bones taken out, hopefully. And I'd be willing to. I'm just working up the courage to do so. And there was other things. It was like sprouts. They were never really cooked in the way that I personally liked. My mother generally preferred to boil them, which I must stress here, for all the flaws my mother had, and she did indeed have flaws, she was an excellent cook. I just didn't particularly enjoy the way she prepared sprouts. Roasted, I enjoy them very much. And so I gave them a chance, and I realized I liked them, and I discovered if I'm willing to eat raw salmon in the sushi, then surely I'd be willing to eat it. I'll teach the salmon first. I'll teach it how to be delicious. No, surely I'd be willing to eat it properly prepared. And of course I would. And I look forward to that day when I finally do it. So, please leave your answers in a comment below. Foodstuffs that you were put off long ago, that you've never quite plucked up the courage to try again. I look forward to reading your answers in the comment below. And with that, I'm heading off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.